Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. As always, I'll be talking to an author whose book I have recently read and enjoyed. My guest this week is somebody who's also from the Netherlands and she's also an NRI, and I'm so excited to have her on the show because she's somebody who made me realize that it's a small world that we live in because not only is she an NRI and lives in the Netherlands, but she's also an author like myself. So I'm really excited to talk to her. Hi, Pawan. Thank you for joining. My guest this week is Ell P. That's her writer name, and her actual name is Lakshmi Priya. And she's the author of the book Shameless and Stilletos. And we are going to talk about it. It's a murder mystery crime thriller book. And we are going to talk about her writing process, how she went about weaving the characters of this book, and what's her writing process like. So stay tuned. It's going to be a really interesting episode. As I mentioned, she is also an NRI like myself, and she also lives in the Netherlands. And we are going to talk about her book, Shameless and Stilletos. Let me just check if she's here. Yeah, she's already here. Let me invite her and start the episode. It might take a few minutes. Do stay connected. If it has not gone through, I'll make another attempt. Very excited for today's episode because for the first time, I have somebody who is also from the Netherlands and she's also an author. So it's going to be a very exciting episode for me. Seems like my invitation didn't go through. I'm going to send you a fresh invitation, L. Give me a second. Hi, Ushma. Thank you for joining. L, I've sent you a fresh invitation. See if it came through and if you are able to. Hey, hi, L.
Hi,
Welcome to the Author
hi,
Collaborative.
Monali. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Same here. And I was mentioning earlier, but I just want to let you know that, coming in touch with you was like, it's a small world. And
It is
yeah,
like Providence.
we are
Yes,
both NRIs and we
yes,
are both living in the Netherlands
yes,
and
yes.
we are both authors.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was quite happy when Sid Reviews mentioned that you're here, and I immediately connected with you. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
Before we go on with the episode, I just want you to briefly introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. My name is Lakshmi Priya, but my writer name is LP, ELL space P. And I've been writing from the time I was a child. I would write like the short stories and novellas and everything. I was throughout contributing to all my school magazines, being the editor of the magazine. But then you know how an Indian kid upbringing is, right? Writing doesn't bring you money, so so I did my MBA and joined the corporate world. I think my journey as a serious writer started in 2014 when I attended the Bangalore Write Club for the first time.
Okay.
Bangalore Write Club had started since 2012, and it's this one place where every Saturday you meet for 3 to 4 hours, and every Saturday you have a different host with a different genre, different topic. And you know what, like Ray Bradbury says, right? That if you write one story every single week, by the end of the year, you would have 52 stories, and you would actually be able to see the journey of how you have improved as a writer. So that's what happened with me with Bangalore Write Club, because until I had started going there. Until then, the people who would read my work would be my friends, my mom, right? And they were not essentially writers.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was one person who was writing within their friend circle was big enough.
Yeah.
And the first time I went to Bangalore Write Club, I was put into my place as how I am as a writer, right? And that somehow made me all the more determined to keep going there every single Saturday. And I would say that um, that really got me into serious writing, got me connected with some well-established writers, got me exploring different types of writing, listening to what other people have written, listening to feedback for my writing, and yeah, and since then I've been published in over 20 anthologies,
Wow.
and Shameless and Stilettos is my first debut novel, of course. Yeah. And I moved to the Netherlands in 2023. I work here because, again, writing doesn't pay the bills. So, so yeah, and that's why I'm a very slow writer. So because I have to really fight and squeeze time out to write.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's understandable, definitely. With a full-time job, you have to manage the writing. So yes, that definitely slows you down. The progress of writing is, dependent on many factors, and one of those factors for you is a full-time job.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I think you would understand this better, Manali. I live in Dordrecht and I travel to Schiphol every day to
Oh my
work.
God.
Yeah. So,
That's a long commute.
yeah. So exactly, I have to really fight to squeeze the time out to write. So, but yeah, I think I'm persisting. This year onwards, it's become better. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good news for all of us because after reading your book and after talking to you, I know that there is a second part of that book coming out. But let's talk about this part first, which I absolutely loved reading. We are talking about your debut thriller book, which is
Yes, yes,
Shameless and Stilletos, and it's a murder mystery. And I enjoyed it. I've asked you so many questions also post my reading.
yes,
I
yes.
should tell you how much I enjoyed it. So, the thing that was very interesting for me was that you have chosen a female cop as the investigating cop, and that's something very different. I have not, come across. I mean, in movies and series, I have seen that part
Mm.
where there's a female investigator, but not so much in the books, and that's
Yeah,
something I found very refreshing. That's one thing that stood out for me. But besides her, also, there are a bunch of other females in the story who are a part of the, I should say, suspects. They are like the circle of suspects within the murder.
yeah,
And the way each character is so different from each other, and despite that, they have a very close knit bond, and how they are, protecting each other, kind of, very
yeah, yeah.
possessive about each other and defensive about each other. That's the thing that struck out to me the most. Like, it's also a lesson in sisterhood, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, that is derived from personal experience because uh, I have only found sisters in this world. I mean, they may come from other women,
Hmm.
but the minute we get close and we build a bond, I've some of my greatest champions have been women.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was very easy for me to then write this whole thing, where one incident connects so many people together.
Yeah. And as I was saying, it's a very heartwarming to read that bit of the story. But then there is also the murder mystery part where, one after the other things are unraveling, and we also, as readers, are curious as to how this event happened and how it eventually led to the murder. So that's very interesting to read.
Yeah,
And I love how you have connected, you have used two timelines where you are talking about the past and then you are talking about the present. And
Yeah.
what I also found very interesting is that you have used two different tenses in both the timelines,
Yes.
which initially one would feel that there's some grammatical error here, but then you realize no, you have used the present tense in the current time and you have used the past tense in the previous timeline where we are
Yes.
going back in time,
Yeah.
which was also very nicely done.
Yeah, it was deliberate,
Yeah.
and I realized that I think writing in present tense comes to me naturally, which which was a struggle when I first started writing, but then I decided to overcome it, you know. And again, I would really, really credit Bangalore Write Club for this because, these realizations come when you have this workshop one of the Saturdays where the challenge to you is that you have to only write it in second person.
Hmm.
So it's almost like you're talking to the other person when you're writing, or your story has to be only in dialogues with no descriptions whatsoever, and through dialogues you have to tell what is happening, or like writing only in present tense or in an omniscient point of view. So there were all these. I went through like a series of these Saturdays where every Saturday would be a new challenge in writing. And I think that is the reason why I was able to make it possible in
Yes,
Shameless and Stilettos.
definitely. And being a part of such a group, not only teaches you, it also shows you how they are doing in comparison to you. So you
Absolutely.
learn from them as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. True, true.
We
Yeah.
have Pawan here who was saying she writes murder mysteries, and I love to read books on this genre.
Well,
Thank
thank you so much,
you.
Pawan.
Okay,
Yeah.
so before we go ahead, since we have talked so much about the book already and how much I loved it, I'm just going to read out a few passages from the book for the people to get an idea what the story is all about. Of course, they would have to buy the book and read the full story to know the entire thing. I wasn't able to decide what part to read, so I'm just going to pick the first chapter.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first chapter, and we start with the present, and then we go into the past. So first chapter starts with the present. Now, 2:30 a.m., December 14, 2018. Anant Reddy is dead. That is mighty clear by the way his entire face is smashed into concrete, drowning in a pool of blood. If anyone still has any doubts about his mortality, the tissue, tendons, and splinters of bones floating in red would quickly dissipate them. The sweet, tangy smell of blood permeates the chill of the night. A few onlookers have already emptied out what was left of their dinner. Motherfucking asshole. Inspector Meenakshi Rao mutters under her breath as she spits a spoonful of phlegm on a scanty bed of grass by the side of the road. She double checks the driver's license and curses again, kicking a lone pebble that stands in her way. The body definitely belongs to the Anant Reddy. Unless some loser stole his wallet, his driver's license, his Aadhaar card, his PAN card, and was driving his Lamborghini only to jump off the seventh floor in a purely decrepit middle class residential complex. But Inspector Rao knows such is not her luck. Just when she is about to take her year end vacation, she has to have one of the most high profile deaths in Bangalore land right in her lap. Who discovered the body? She asks Sub Inspector Dheeraj Verma. Madam, Dheeraj straightens his back, stifles a yawn, and widens his eyes and continues. Watchman did. He heard a loud thump and came here to check. That is when he found the body. Meenakshi turns to look at the sparse gathering of onlookers. At 2 in the morning, the entire residential complex is asleep in their bedrooms, oblivious to the fact that Bangalore's biggest real estate tycoon has lost his son in a non decrepit neighborhood. So, right away, we know that there is a death. We
Yeah.
know that it's it's a high profile death. We know that somebody who belongs to a very high class business family has died, and there is this inspector, the one that I was mentioning earlier. She is the investigating cop, lead investigating cop, I must say, And from the first chapter, we also know that she has a foul mouth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. She has a potty mouth. So, yeah,
So,
yeah.
in
And
fact, sorry, you were saying?
no, 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 go ahead, please. I mean, I think also, um, uh, I would say this is my trademark as a writer. Whenever I write thrillers or horror, is that you have to expect gore. So
Yeah,
there'll always be a lot of blood tissues and descriptive, vivid killing and everything. So I think that is also established right in the beginning.
yes. And
Mm.
so, yes, we must also say for whoever has been, intrigued by the book and would like to pick it up, I definitely recommend it. But there's a lot of trigger warnings also.
Absolutely, there are trigger warnings in the book, and I think if you read the author acknowledgements, it's all there in terms of what to expect and how to go about it.
Yes,
So, yeah, not for the faint of heart.
definitely.
Yeah,
Because, of course, there's blood and gore, but there's also a lot of description about abuse later on in the book,
yeah,
also, which
yeah,
can also be another trigger.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there is, there are a lot of sex scenes, descriptive sex scenes. The book is also a study into, an aspect of kink
Hmm.
and, how it is being perceived in a country like India.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah. A lot of BDSM, but very different from 50 Shades. So, another disclaimer.
yeah.
So,
I'll take
based
that as
on
a
my
compliment.
yeah, so based on my reading, I had a couple of questions for you, El.
Right.
My first
Okay.
question to you is: we have talked about the female lead, who's the investigative cop. What struck out for me the most was we have seen such characteristics in generally a male investigating cop, be it in books or in movies or in shows. And here you have shown a female who's a potting outed female investigative cop, and she's also, she has her own vices, like she's into alcohol, she's into tobacco, she's also doing weed. So I want to know from you, how difficult or easy was it for you to weave such a character where you are breaking so many stereotypes
Yeah.
and
Um,
not in a good manner, so to say.
yeah. So I think Manali, for me, it comes from Meenakshi Rao's history. You know,
Hmm.
she's it's been a year since she's lost her child Adi at a very young age. And she's not mourning like your typical Indian mother where she won't step out of the house, she's sad, she's always crying or something like that. Minakshi carries within her, a universe of rage and fury. She's not able to forgive anyone for,
Hmm.
forgetting that her child has died and moving on with their lives,
Hmm.
because she's not able to move on with their lives, with her own life, right? So her rage comes from there, her coping mechanisms come from there. And I think
Hmm.
at that point of time, when you've had something so life-changing happen to you, you really stop giving a shit about male, female, and stereotypes,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter to you whether a woman is supposed to smoke, supposed to drink, supposed to have weed, or supposed to, not use words like motherfucker or something. It really doesn't matter to you because you would then live your life the way you want to live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is carrying like this mountain of rage within you.
Yeah, so that brings me to another question which I have in mind. Since you are talking about that she is dealing with her anger issues, she's
Yeah.
dealing with her grief, and she's just angry at the world that why such a thing has happened with me. So I want to understand from you, how was she like before the trauma happened, before the tragedy happened with her? Was she like this before this also, or has the tragedy, propelled it or just started it?
Uh, I would say, I mean, there are, if you I mean, for anyone who reads the book, there are a few glimpses and instances of how she used to be. So Meenakshi has always been this aggressive kid,
Yeah.
right? Aggressive, assertive,
Hmm.
highly ambitious,
Hmm.
okay, and completely no nonsense.
Yeah.
So she's always been like this, and what I would say is that what she is now is
Hmm.
probably the worst parts of her personalities, which are getting highlighted
Hmm.
due to her grief.
Hmm.
But that was still always her personality. She was always quick to anger. She was, always somebody who was okay to use cuss words. She was
Hmm.
always ambitious, right? And she never liked people getting in her way to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So one can say that, the tragedy has brought out the worst in her.
yeah, it has brought out the worst in her.
Okay. So moving on to my next question for you, again, which is related to the female characters in the book who are sort of like propelling the story forward. They are like the
Yeah.
instigators of the entire thing that happens, where Meenakshi is unraveling their stories along with the murder mystery that she's solving. So I want to understand from you, was this like a conscious choice? You have already mentioned that the sisterhood in your personal life has inspired you for this, but I
Yeah.
want to understand, was this a conscious choice for this story and why? And at any point, were any of the characters, the five female characters, were they intended to be men and then you changed it later on?
No, I don't think any of them were intended to be men. I wanted to represent an LGBTQI angle as well there with Rachel and
Hmm.
Nisha, right? I wanted to represent the world of a dominatrix through
Hmm.
Mia. And I also wanted to represent, Sheba, uh, this successful model, and then she marries Anant, and she's become his wife and everything. And you would, if you had to talk about Sheba in very simple terms, you would call her a gold digger, but she's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
She's
She's
not
not
really a gold
very
digger. A
smart,
part of her,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, a part of her reason to marry Anant is yes, definitely. She enjoys the perks, she enjoys the money that she has, but she's not really a gold digger. She wants to have a good life with Anant,
Yes.
right? So there are, and at the same time, she doesn't want to give up what she has either. So I wanted to create a mix of these complex characters who
Hmm.
could not be bucketed or nicely compartmentalized and put in a box.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. And
so,
for me, I think for me, I think I can do way more justice if these characters are women than men.
yeah. Yeah. Of course, I cannot, now that I have read the book and I know their backstories and what propels them forward, what are their motivations in life, I also know that I could not imagine any of them being men characters. Like, they
Yeah.
were meant to be female characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And another add-on question to that, since we are already talking about all of them, and you have mentioned a few of their characteristics and what their personalities are like, I want to understand, how did you decide on what kind of personalities to give them and what kind of quirks and gray shades to give each one of them? Because all of them have their own grays.
Yeah. So it's funny because the idea for Shameless and Stilettos came when there was a pitch fest for Shrishti. So there
Okay.
was which was organized in Bangalore, and I had gone and before the pitch fest, I think for a week or a few days or something, my partner and I had completely brainstormed on this idea. I had this idea that um, I wanted to write a thriller. I wanted to write a murder mystery with, a strong study in the under belly of BDSM within
Hmm.
India.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I had long discussions with my partner, and created this outline of Shameless and Stilettos with all of these characters,
Hmm.
right? Now, in the beginning, I had a very high level idea of what these characters are going to be, how they will be. And I think over a period of time, as I kept writing the book, and I'm not a 100% plotter.
Hmm.
I'm not somebody who would, use the snowflake method to plot an entire book
Hmm.
and in every single chapter, every single scene, and I would know exactly what happens in that. I'm somewhere between a pantser and a plotter.
Hmm.
So that's why a lot of times when I am writing my books, my stories, they surprise me with the way that they are developing.
Hmm.
And this is exactly what happens in Shameless and Stilettos. I don't want to give away anything, but one of the first questions that you asked me, that was never pre-planned.
Okay.
That
Oh.
developed as I wrote.
Hmm. Oh, lovely. So, I mean, without giving away too much of a spoiler,
Yeah,
since we know very soon in the book itself how the murder happens,
yeah,
uh, and what the murder weapon is, that's also one of the reasons why the book is called what it is.
yes.
So that
Yeah.
came later on, are you saying? Like while you were writing,
Not the murder weapon,
but
right?
how it was used.
Exactly, exactly. That thing developed as I wrote.
Oh, lovely.
Just
So
to give you
that's
an
very
example.
interesting.
Yeah,
So, wo- uh, till what part of the book, or till how much had you written the book that that idea came in your head that this is how the murder weapon should be used? How far were you in the book when that idea came in?
okay, I think it's very evident that the murder weapon is a stiletto. So that's why it's shameless and
Let's
stiletto.
play. Stop
So
playing vague.
yeah. The stiletto was always going to be the murder weapon. That
Okay.
was very clear right from the beginning.
Hmm.
Uh, it was not the it was how the stiletto happened to be the murder weapon
Hmm.
is what kind of came later as I continued to write.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Uh, I it's a question for later on. Probably I'll ask you in the DMs because
yeah,
I cannot ask it without giving away a spoiler. So
yeah,
later.
yeah. I think Karthik seems to be getting upset. No spoilers. Yeah,
Yes. Okay, so that brings me, yeah, Karthik has already said no spoilers, please. Yeah, go ahead and check out the book and then we can discuss Karthik. As a reader, we can discuss the book. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the questions that I had for you, Elle. Now I leave the floor open to you. You have also read my latest book. Please.
absolutely, absolutely. So, embraces I'll be very honest, embraces in ink is not my typical read. So
Okay.
I read fiction.
Hmm.
And even within fiction, I rarely read your, Sally Rooney kind of dramas like Anxious People, or I've read A Man Called Ovi, but that would not be my first choice, is what I'm saying. So, but when you proposed the author collab, I knew that this is one book that I want to read because of everything that I'd heard about you, and I was glad I read it, because some of the letters that you've written are, it almost felt like I was reading the private journal of someone. It almost felt like I was snooping into a private diary when I was reading all the letters, and yeah, I think I enjoyed reading them. It was very cute, very adorable. You started with things, and then you moved on to people and relationship and friends, and even within writing letters to yourself, I don't think you've left anything to your ideal self, to your future self, to me, to my past self, right? So yes, you've covered all the bases there. So, I did
Hold the cover
really.
to everyone. So this is the book that we are talking about. I forgot to mention. Do you have the paperback of your
Yes,
book? Because I don't have the
I
version
do.
with the cover.
I recently got the paperback because my son came back from India.
Yes.
So
So lovely cover. We have a very sexy looking stiletto on the cover, and now you already know why it is on the cover.
absolutely, absolutely.
So this is the cover of my book, Embraces in Ink, and Elle is talking about her experience of reading the book. Please go on.
Yes, yes. So, like I was saying, I enjoyed reading it. It was, to me, I found it very cute. Um, my mom is here. So, when I was growing up,
Hello.
I
Hello,
had
madam.
never an opportunity to write in a private diary because if my mom would see that I'm writing in a private diary, it would be found and it would be read. Right? So,
Yeah. And then she
and
would hold your ear and be like, what is going on in your life? Hmm?
exactly, exactly, exactly. I used to have these, surprise checks where my bag would be brought out, like the whole family is watching TV peacefully, and my bag will be brought out and it would be emptied just to make sure that there is no love letter, there is no rose, there is no chocolate from a boy. So, yeah,
Oh dear. Yeah.
I lived
Yeah.
in mortal fear of my mom. So, anyways, like I was saying, I mean, reading your book reminded me of how my entries would have been had I been allowed to write a diary while I was a teenager.
Lovely.
So yeah,
Okay.
all
Would
right.
you like to
And
read out a poem?
I do have a few questions. Is it
Of
okay
course.
if I ask a few questions about the book?
Of course. Of course.
Okay, one moment. My questions are here. I have to move the phone a little bit. All right. So one of the things that I liked about the book was it was a peep into you and your personal life, right? Where of course, having grown up in India as well, grown up with parents with similar kind of mindset and thought process and everything, there was a lot which was relatable.
Hmm.
And the fact that you've also moved from India, you are in the same country, we face the same language problems, language challenges, and everything, and living with strangers, I could relate to it a lot. So there was a lot of personal touch. Now, my question to you is that you've written romance in the past, right? And um, this is a very different take for you. It is more of a Dear Diary, epistolary kind of a book. How did you develop your voice for this book? And, at any point of time, did you feel that uh, if I publish this book, will I be able to connect with my readers?
Hmm. Yes. So there was definitely this thought. In fact, till the end, I was very skeptical about whether it will be accepted by the readers, and they would be like, "Why would I want to read about what's going on with your life? I want to read something which I can relate to." So this thought was always there. Like over the process of compiling the book, the percentage of this feeling might have gone down, but till the end, it was always there. I
Yeah.
think it was the maximum when I actually decided, when I was in the thought process of whether I want to put out such a book or not. And at that point, I reached out to a few of my trusted friends in the reader and writing community. I shared the poems with them and I asked them whether, this is becoming too personal or whether they are liking it and whether other readers would be interested in reading something like this. And they got back to me and were very honest with me. They were like, yes, most of these poems are very relatable. I'm sure since I have, enjoyed reading it, I'm sure there is an audience for it out there which would also enjoy reading it. So it's a good idea to put it out. That gave me the confidence to, kind of take the decision because till then, that point in my mind, I was like, nobody would want to read this. That thought was clear. Like I was very confident कि ये नहीं चलेगा. Nobody would want to read this. But since my after reaching out to my friends, they came back with the feedback that yes, there will be an audience for it, and you can, take a chance of putting it out
Yeah,
and
yeah,
putting
yeah.
it as a
Yeah.
together as a book. It gave me the confidence to take it ahead. Despite that, I constantly ask them, are there any poems in there where a modification is required, or should I completely remove those poems? And there were a few poems, in fact, which I completely removed because they were very personal. With the rest of them also, wherever I had mentioned something that had specifically happened to me or in my life, and when I was referring to those incidents while writing to my friends or my parents or anybody else, I removed those instances from the poem. So it was a process. Like, I had to either modify the bits where I was talking about very personal things, or had to completely remove those parts in order to make them, universal, if
Yeah.
that's the correct word, if we can use. So yeah, so that was a process which took about a couple of months, where I had to look at each poem through a lens of a stranger,
Yeah.
because they would not be interested in knowing what's happened in my life and what is going on in the letter. They
Yeah.
Why would they want to?
I think, for example, there is a letter that you've written to a backstabber that you've
Hmm.
come across in your life,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know if you tried to make it more universal, but it still felt personal to me. And it still, while reading the letter, it still felt that somewhere, whatever happened with that individual, you have carried it forward. And that has come across in the letter, and which is okay, right? Which is you. For example, each of us, when we write something, even when I write fiction, I bring a lot of who I am in the fiction,
Yeah.
right? So, and we just cannot avoid that.
Yeah.
As writers, we can't avoid it unless we use ChatGPT to write the books for us, which is then
which
we're
is
not
like
the writers,
which is the
it's
new
AI.
threat that writers are facing now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and since you're mentioning this, I have to also say that yes, I did try to make the letters universal, but despite that, there might be some personal bits about the letters still there in most of them.
yeah,
In fact, I think more than 50% of them do have a personal touch in them still. But again, I involved a few people into that process also. Like, after the modifications, also, I kept asking people that is it too personal? Would somebody be interested? Or is it, giving a disconnect that, readers might not
yeah,
be interested in reading something like that? But
yeah,
they were like,
yeah.
a little bit of personal touch also, gives it a distinct feature and people would be interested. So let that much be. You might
Correct.
not want 100% personal touch, but around 40-50% of personal touch is okay. People do want to read that also. So that kind of helped me take the decision, because till the last moment, as I'm mentioning, thoda percentage of doubt was always there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the book is getting really, liked a lot. It is getting appreciated. So I am happy that, I didn't make it completely non-personal. I
yeah.
let that some bits of personal touches be there, and that is being liked. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that I personally do not like about self-help books is that they're preachy,
Hmm.
which Embraces in Ink is not. It's you. It's
Yeah.
you, yourself, the way you have experienced life, the way you experience things and people, and whatever any reader has to take out of it is left to them. Right? So that was
Yes.
something that I really liked about your book.
Thank you. That makes me very happy. And yeah, it makes me confident that, I made the correct decision.
Good, good, excellent. I have one more question.
Yes.
Um, you know, Especially when you have that whole section where you've written letters to things,
Hmm.
to vegetables, to curtains, right? So, in those letters, you've painted very vivid imagery, right? Um, and it's a challenge because every single letter of yours starts with dear whoever, and then how you feel about it. And because it's a limited style of writing,
Yes.
How do you manage to keep it non-repetitive? Your style
Hmm.
of writing.
I think I'm going to answer this in two parts. Uh, One thing is that I have been writing poetry for the longest time. As a writer, poetry is something that I have written extensively for over 2 decades now. I've been writing since I was a teenager, and now I'm in my 30s. So 2 decades of writing poetry. So I think that kind of gives you a perspective of what works and what doesn't. So that helps. Second is that I'm also a very avid reader. I've been reading since before I began writing. I have been
Right, right,
reading since the age of 8. So as a reader also I know मुझे क्या अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, and I understand that what other readers might not like. If you are
right,
going
right.
beating around the bush, nobody is going to like it. People like it when you are very straightforward in your writing and get to the point. It's not like, but you have to get to the point, but it's also not like this is color white. You have to
Yeah,
make them experience that this is the color white.
yeah.
You have to explain in a manner that they like to read it. So that's something that I have learned as a reader and as a writer, because I have been doing poetry for the longest time. These are the two things that have helped me. Having said that, there is one more factor that has worked for me, which is sharing a lot of these poems on my blog regularly, and that's where I get the first reader feedback.
Right, right.
Yeah, I know what has worked and what hasn't based on the comments that I receive. And the writing and reading community, basically the blogging community, has been very kind and honest with me in that manner. They have come back and told me that this particular poem they didn't like, or what they didn't like in a poem that was very good, but this bit didn't work for them. So that feedback always helps me write better poems, maybe improve upon that same poem or take care of that particular thing while I'm writing the next poem. So
Correct, correct.
this has helped me, try and stay focused, not be as repetitive as possible,
Mm.
in the poems that I write. I think that's about it. Having written so many years and being a reader also, and of course blogging also helps, reaching out to the community and having an open mind to the feedback that you receive, that also helps.
Okay, okay. So if it's okay, Manali, I would like the people who are a part of this to get like a glimpse of one of your letters. And for me, the one that I liked the most was the one written to your dad, because somehow the way you've described your dad sounds very similar to my father.
I do know that.
Yeah.
Please, I would love for you to read out, please.
Uh, it says, Dear Father, dear nurturer, have I ever told you I am the way I am, foresighted, and a compulsive planner thanks to you? Did I mention you're the first person I think of telling whenever I have something good or bad to share or when I'm stuck? Do I tell you enough how much I love you? I'm inspired by you and have the utmost respect for what you've achieved. Are you aware that yours is a validation I look forward to the most in whatever I do or achieve in life, in work related or otherwise? Have I ever apologized for the times I haven't been the best daughter or when I behaved differently from what you would have expected of me? I'm sure I haven't. I'm confident whatever I have done isn't enough. I know I can do better. For that, I want to send 100 hugs, 1,000 sorries, a million I love yous, and countless thank yous your way with this single letter. I know it's not enough, but I also know that you know. This is the best way I know how to say what I want to. Stay the way you are, love, not always, your loving daughter. It's a
Thank
beautiful
you so
letter.
much. Thank you. I'm happy that you liked it so much. And I have to mention one more thing, that when somebody else reads out your work, you are also like, wow, kya kamal kar diya. I'm
True, true. I
sure you
agree.
also felt that way when I was reading from your book.
Yeah, I was cringing, hearing motherfucking asshole coming out of your mouth. I'm like, oh, I wrote that.
It's a very otherworldly feeling when somebody else, reads out
Yeah,
your
yeah.
work.
True, true, true. Absolutely.
So thank you so much for reading out that. Yeah, and it's also one of the poems that, I was also very emotional while writing, because putting out your feelings like that, you make yourself completely vulnerable at that moment. And then when you are asking other people also to read, you feel exposed a lot.
Yes, 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 yes. But it's a beautifully written poem, and that was the one which I'm going to carry with me.
Thank you. I'm glad. Okay. That brings us to the long form questions that we had for each other. El. We come to my favorite part, which is the rapid fire round. What we'll do here is we'll do back and forth. One question I ask, one question you ask.
Of
Okay.
course, yeah.
Okay. So my first question to you is, there are very problematic male characters in your story, but the two ones that are very positive, and I really like them. I had a kind of soft corner for both of them, but I want to know your perspective. Akshay or Dheeraj? So Akshay is Meenakshi's husband, and Dheeraj is her friend and also a colleague. So I want to
Yeah,
know from you, Akshay or Dheeraj, the better guy in your opinion, and why?
definitely, Dheeraj. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I also mentioned my feelings about the relationship that
Yes,
he shares
yes,
with Meenakshi.
yeah, yeah. I think Dheeraj is, a stoic friend and stoic support for Meenakshi throughout. And he is also who is probably one of the very few people who looks at Meenakshi with compassion.
Yeah.
Who sees Meenakshi and sees her as a mourning mother,
Hmm.
as someone who's lost everything
Yeah.
that has ever meant anything to her. So I would say it is Dheeraj. Akshay, despite being Akshay is also obviously he's lost his son, and he's also he misses his son terribly. He's also going through a lot, but somewhere the way both husband and wife are dealing with this
Hmm.
grief that stands like an elephant in the room
Hmm.
is very different. They're not dealing with it
Yeah.
together. They're not, working together.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I felt that for me, Dheeraj, for just as from Meenakshi's point of view, is a better support system for her.
Yeah. Definitely. And also, I want to add that Dheeraj is very compassionate, not just towards Meenakshi, but all the women in the
All the
story.
women. Yes, yes,
He's very
true.
open minded about their point of view and what they have to share. Of
Yeah,
course, he's on a first name basis with all the suspects, which is a prick for Meenakshi. But that's
absolutely.
that's just the way he is, and we know how kind hearted he must be for
Yeah,
them to feel comfortable to be on a first name basis with him.
absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah.
Okay, your turn.
Okay. So if you had to describe Embraces in Ink in 3 words, what would they be?
Three words. So funny, definitely, because there are quite a few humorous letters also, which I have addressed to objects.
Yeah,
And one of my favorite ones from that is the one I have addressed to the COVID-19 X
yeah,
vaccine. I
yes.
had a lot of fun writing that. So it's funny, it's relatable, and it's also heartfelt.
Excellent. All right, your turn.
Okay, my next question to you is your least favorite female character from the five in SIS, and state your reasons.
I mean, it's hard because I've written the characters, but it would be Rachel. For me, it would be Rachel. She's like always crying, always like, oh my God, why has this happened to me and everything. So, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and she's also, I don't want to say the weakest, but she is the weakest. I
She is
mean,
the weakest link, yeah.
and yeah, the other four are very strong headed. They are very clear in their minds what they want in life. This
Yeah.
one is very confused, and I think because of that confusion, she has the problems that she falls into in life. In this,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, yeah, I mean, you have to blame her upbringing as well for the
yeah.
confusion because she's been brought up in a very, very orthodox way. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, sometimes I used to get bored writing about Rachel. I'm like, how much is she going to cry?
Yeah, that is true. I can imagine you being frustrated as a writer while writing the scenes
Yeah.
where she is there.
Yeah, and it's a writer's curse, right? Because you can't have all the characters, strong-willed and exciting and
Yeah.
everything. There have to be a few regular boring characters as well. And writing about them is a is tiresome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tiresome. Yeah. How much boring can you make them?
True, true, true.
Okay, your turn.
Okay. For you, which was the letter that was hardest to write, and why?
Hardest to write, I think there are a couple of them, probably more than a couple, but I think the backstabber one was the hardest to write because I was thinking about that particular person and what they did to me. And, forgiving such people is a very difficult process to move on from. It requires like lot of healing for you.
Yeah.
So while I was writing the letter, also, I was feeling like I'm healed and I was able to forgive that person and move on. So that's one of the letters. Uh, and the other ones, a couple of them written to friends who I'm not in touch with anymore.
Yeah.
I was remembering the moment that we have spent together and how they are not a part of my life anymore.
Yeah.
So those were also a little difficult.
Oh, nice. Okay, I have a question. This may come as a surprise question for you, but if the person who is meant to be the backstabber happens to read the book and read the letter, will they recognize that it is them?
I hope they do because I
Okay,
want the message to reach them that what they have done has affected me. I mean, they can't just go on with their life like that
right,
without
right.
being unaffected by what they have done and the consequences of what
Yeah.
has happened to me.
So beware of a writer. They'll just, they'll make you a character in their book and kill you in
Yeah.
the most horrific ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I I'll hit you with a stiletto. Imagine.
Yeah. True, true. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. My turn. So you've read Embraces, and I'm sure while reading also you had a lot of thoughts as a creator yourself. So I want to know, is there any letter that you would add to the collection and why? Which one and why?
I think I've answered this before. Uh, okay. Few reasons why I'm not the right person to give you an opinion here is because I myself do not write, um, s- you know, flow of consciousness
Hmm.
books or
Hmm.
stories, right? So this to me came across as something which is categorized within your writing
Yeah.
about the flow of your consciousness. So I don't write that. So I do not have the craft for it to begin with, right? And second, I said already that you've covered all the bases, and this is something which is deeply personal to you. So I'm not in a position to tell you that this is a letter you should have included and this is a letter you shouldn't have included, right? So I think the way it is, maybe over a period of time you might come up with a second embrace in ink or something like that, and add more letters to it. But for now, it's who you are. It's who you thought was necessary to be included in the book.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
your turn.
All right. What's the one letter that you're most proud of?
Most proud of. Okay. I think the one that I have addressed to feminist men, that's the one I'm really proud of because I wrote it long back, probably in 2018 or 19, and it was received, and it's still there on my blog, and it still receives a lot of views and comments. So I know that it's one of the most popular posts that I have on my blog, and the kind of comments that I received on it were also very, like, humbling and also made me feel like, wow, kya kamal kar diya again. So that's one of
Excellent.
the letters that I am really proud of because it sends out a very important message, in my opinion, where, this message needs to go out to all the men who are, like, the rare ones who are really good, who are, feminist in their own way, and they have to be told that not all women who are feminist hate them. So I'm really proud of them. That
Excellent.
particular letter.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah. Good, good.
Okay, my next one. Uh, any letter from Embraces that you would have written differently and in what manner?
Again, no, I think it's you. So I'm no one to tell you. I think from the only place where I can share feedback would be from a craft point of view, and I think from a craft point of view, you've done a good job. Each letter has each letter has a different flavor to it, right? Each letter is uh, intended for a different message, intended for a different person or thing, and that has been brought out very well, right? So there is variety in the writing, even though it is a very limited theme. So I think overall, I wouldn't say that a letter has to be written differently because, again, it's a very personal book to you.
Okay, thank you. Your turn.
Okay. If Embraces in Ink were to turn into a movie,
Hmm.
who would you cast as yourself?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Who would I cast as myself? Probably Pariniti Chopra because I think personality wise and body figure wise type, she's very similar to me. So
Okay.
yeah, probably Pariniti Chopra.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think I can imagine.
Okay. My last question to you is, and my most favorite question, because it also shows one of the most important things in your book, highlights it. Show us your favorite pair of stilettos and tell us how they came into your possession and why they are your favorite.
Yes. I'm so glad that you sent me this question beforehand because I have three of them
Oh, wow.
ready. Okay. So it's not a stiletto, it's a boot, but
Good.
this is one of my favorite boots. Uh, this I bought it while traveling in Turkey,
Okay.
and I and my partner were traveling, and most of my stilettos or high heels, I have not bought it myself. It's been a gift to me by my partner.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Okay,
How nice.
so
Okay.
so yeah, I love this because uh, yeah, this adds like a good 4 inches to my height.
Hmm.
So I suddenly feel extremely tall, very
Tall. Yes.
powerful. Uh, then my second one is this one.
Oh, I love these. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah, they're beautiful. They've been bought from a place called College Spring. It's a store in Forum in Bangalore. Again, my partner got it for me. So I in 2018, I met with an accident where I had an ACL tear. So before that, I
Oh.
used to wear them quite often. But now I'm like, now it's if I had to just step out, get into a car, get out, sit, step it back into the car,
No
and get out.
walking involved, minimal walking.
Exactly. No walking involved is when I wear these. And my final ones, which I have not worn them even a single time outside, and you'll see why.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why. These
Yeah.
are pencil stilettos, no? Very difficult.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, very. Yeah, I mean, I use them for protection because they definitely murder weapons. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, I can imagine them
yes,
being used for murdering Anant Reddy.
yes. So,
Okay.
so this
I
is
have to tell
I
you.
have a big collection of stilettos, but these are the three that I picked for today. Yeah,
You didn't tell us the story about the third one, how they came into your possession. Where did you buy them?
I swear to God, I have no idea how it came into my possession. It just appeared one day. I do not remember how it came. I'm pretty sure my partner bought it for me, but yeah, he saw it, he liked it. He's like, oh, they're going to look good on her, so let me buy it for her.
How nice, so sweet. Very
Yeah,
thoughtful also. Lovely.
yes, yes.
I have to tell you, the floral pattern ones were my favorite.
They,
They are very
I
chic.
love them too. Absolutely, very chic. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing those with us. You have given us some fashion goals now, but you and I both know these are not practical for where we live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, I'll have to carry them with me
Yeah, change.
and yeah.
Yeah, keep
And
them
if I have to
handy
take a
in your
gap, I
car.
have to, sell a kidney. So that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. The boots can be worn in
Yeah,
all seasons, but the other two, I don't think so because they are also open.
yeah, yeah,
That would,
yeah.
yeah. Lovely. Thank you for sharing those with us. I'm sure those of the viewers who are also into stilettos would be tempted to buy more after looking at your collections.
Thank you, thank you so much. Yeah,
And it's been lovely having you, El.
same.
Before I let you go, I ask this question to all my guests because I want them to come again on the show. So I'm going to ask you too. When is the next book coming out?
Okay, I'm a slow writer, so Shameless and Stilettos. I started writing it in 2020. I was actually finished with it in 2021, but
Hmm.
I started my querying, my pitching. I associated with one literary agent, and then a year later, I moved on to a different literary agent. Then 2 years later,
Um,
I found my publisher. Then a year later, again, the book finally came out. So it took a really long time. So I even if I finish the book, I cannot say how long it'll take to get a publisher and then the book to come out. But I am also working on a few shorter pieces which I plan to self-publish.
okay.
And those, yeah, I think hopefully in the next 6 months or something, I should be able to come out with
Hey,
something there.
lovely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
not that much of a wait. So skeptically, I'm booking somewhere around June 25, June, July 25 for the next episode with you.
Yeah, let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
this was so much fun and I really look forward to hosting you again. And of course,
same
beyond
likewise.
this also the association would be great. I am,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. We
We
should
live in
meet,
the same country.
we should meet face to
Yes,
face.
exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you
good.
so much for being on the
Excellent.
show, El. This was so much fun. Uh, okay, Karthik is also looking forward to your release.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Karthik is my brother.
Oh,
So he's being sarcastic here. He's my little brother. He's being sarcastic here, holding my breath, you know, as if he's
yeah,
not
I could
read
feel
Shameless and
that because I
Stilettos.
could read out that particular phrase. I could feel the sarcasm, even though I don't know your relationship with him. I could
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
now
so
you
Karthik,
know.
she's going to write it. Don't be so taunting about it. Thank you so much, El, for being on the show. I look forward to hosting you again. And for everyone else also who joined us, thank you for being with us. The episode will be available on my Instagram feed, and I will also be uploading it on my YouTube channel. Do go ahead and watch it again in case you have missed the show right now. And Elle will be coming with us. She has already promised. So we look forward to that. And I will see you all next week. And have a great weekend, Elle. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. It was a lot of fun, Manali. Thank you so much.
Same here. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.